And what's going on? Fontaine here, VIPSoundLab.com. Just had a member request in regards how to arrange the scenes and patterns from the software. Now we do have a video where we show how to do it from the software as well as the hardware. So this right here is going to be again a member request. This video is going to be from the software. Let's go ahead and take a look at the software. Here we are inside the Maschine 2.1 software. Now you do have a quick grid icon here. You can arrange it so you can set up patterns really quick, like a 1-bar loop, 2-bar loop, you know, etc., etc. But let's go ahead and set this to 16th for right now. And you notice down here, this is what's called your pattern arranger. Your scenes are arranged here. What happens is when you create your patterns, they get arranged horizontally and they play vertically with the looper here. You can loop actually anywhere in the scenes as well as in the patterns. Again, we have more detailed videos on that. But just to answer the question, I'm going to just make this as brief as possible so that you can go ahead and really, you know, get your scenes and patterns going really quick without going too in depth. You know, I go a little more in depth in the other video, so you guys can, you know, scroll through the member pages and find that video. But let's say, for example, here I am. I'm using the bangies drum kit right now just to I put a couple of sounds here just to demonstrate how to, you know, get your patterns going. So let's say, for example, I'm gonna go ahead and make this, let's just make it a quick 1-bar loop. Let's just leave it at 1 bar. It'll be a lot easier for the video, and I'll demonstrate different pattern lengths. You know, again, you could do this from the hardware controller, but let's go ahead and just leave this as a 1-bar loop for right now. And let me just zoom in on that a little bit more. Like this here. All right, so here's a kick. Let's add a snare. Let's add a snare here. Another kick. We'll make it like a simple pattern. All right, we'll just make that simple little pattern. It kind of sounds like rock and roll. All right, so that's what's called a pattern. Now I wrote pattern 1 here just to demonstrate how you immediately notice that once this pattern is created, let me zoom in on this a little bit more. It appears up here. When you press this little icon here, this is what's known as your pattern banks. I'll erase pattern 2 for a minute. You notice how when I move the arrow through the pattern bank, you see that little bar moving there? You can select your patterns from here if you're doing it from the software, but you also can do this from the hardware controller. And again, we have more detailed videos on that. But let's just say, for example, here's a little edit icon here. If I select this little edit icon here, a little pencil, that's where I can name my pattern. So, you know, you definitely want to keep your patterns nice and neat, or I can do it from right here. Let's say if I call this, I don't know, let's call this, and I'm doing this with one hand because I'm holding my mic, so I'm sorry if I'm typing slow. We'll call this bang pattern 1. Okay, let's zoom in on the scene up here, and let's say we name the scene, let's just call it intro. You know, you can name your scenes also. Again, you got this little icon here where your scene banks show up, and again, it works exactly the same as your patterns do when you can scroll through your scenes. Okay, now that pattern right there is called intro. Now I can right click here if I want to. If I want to duplicate the scenes, you could do that. You know, if you want to duplicate your patterns, of course you don't have to. You know, I can come over here and I can just select the square here and make a whole new completely blank scene here. Okay, you know, if you want to go in there, you know, for whatever reason. Again, you can do the same thing with your patterns. If I select it here, I can make a whole new blank pattern. Again, the same pattern too. But 9 times out of 10, I'm not gonna say all the time, but I know for me, a lot of times when I'm building tracks, if I want to have like little intricate parts, you know, for example, if this intro's coming in, let's say playing like this. Then let's say if for whatever reason I'm like, well, I want to maybe build up the track a little bit more, maybe add some more drums. You might want to add more snares. You might want to have it completely quiet with just hi-hats and building up with your snares and kicks, you know, basically whatever you want to do. You know, you can come in here, you know, if you wanted to right click here and press duplicate. Okay, and then pattern 2 comes up, and let's say we name this, let's say bang pattern bang pattern 2. Okay, bang pattern 2 now gets named. And again, you have this little plus icon here, you know, if you want to add more pattern banks, because again, you have endless amount of scenes and patterns now. So let's go back to pattern bank 1 for example. All right, now here we are on bang pattern 2. Again, here's the first pattern, here's the second pattern. Now they look exactly the same. Why? Because I duplicated the first pattern. So let's say in this pattern I wanted to change up something. Let's say I added another kick here, another kick here. Okay, which is completely different than pattern 1. Now you notice when I'm on bang pattern 2, it changes up here in the scene screen also. Okay, now again, I'm not going to run too long, but I'm just going to show you. Let's say for example, if I went to scene 1 and I duplicated scene 1 and I put it over here on scene 2. Let's say I went over here and I named this, let's say this was the verse. Now of course, you know, a verse is 16 bars, but you know, again, for the sake of the video, I'm gonna keep it short and brief to make it easy for you to understand. Now you have an intro, okay, here, and you have a verse here, but you have the same pattern. But you're like, okay, I want to get pattern 1 here, which was different. As you can see, it plays different, okay, than pattern 2 here. Let me select that. Okay, you see how pattern 2 is different because I added that extra kick right here. So basically, if I want that to build up, in other words, this is like a song mode. If I want to play pattern 1 first and then bring in pattern 2, that's where the scenes come into play, because your scenes is what plays your patterns. Okay, so you have this little icon here. Again, this is where you can loop it. Okay, this little looper icon here. See how I'm moving that? I'm grabbing that with my mouse. Again, you could do all this from your hardware controller. But being that this member is new, again, I'm keeping this extremely basic right now, so that you know you can get up and running really quickly. Okay, again, we have the tutorial videos on the website, you know, if you want to see how to do this from the hardware controller. Now, I move this looper to right here. Okay, so now what'll happen is it'll play the intro. Okay, it's gonna play in a manner from left to right, you know, whatever you want to call it, vertical, sequential, you know, it's basically going to play your scenes in order. So basically what happens is now it's going to play the intro followed by the verse. All right, so that's pretty much how you get your scenes and patterns to play in order. Now, don't think, for example, they're going to play by numerical order. Like, for example, if I press scene 3 here, okay, and let's say I named this one. Okay, let's say, I'm going to make this easy. Let's say if I make this called scene 1, okay, that's scene 3. And then let's say I made this one scene 2. Don't think because it's labeled like this, okay, that is going to play in an order like that. Like if I loop all of this, let's say like this here, now when I press play here, it's not going to just jump from scene 1 then jump back here to scene 2 and then play scene 3. It's going to play again in a sequential order from left to right. And then you see how, you know, the third pattern is blank. Why? Because we didn't put anything on there. There's no pattern down here. Down here is where you create your scenes and patterns. Now, being that we created these 2 patterns, I can come down here and select any pattern. For example, if I wanted to change it up a little bit, like if I wanted to bring that scene back, let's say to the original intro scene that we had here, you see how it goes back to pattern 1. So that's where naming your scenes comes in handy, so then it makes sense to yourself. You come up here, you know, you name your scenes, or your patterns, I should say, well, scenes and patterns. And then up here, I'll put change up or something, you know, and then I went down here, and then let's say I wanted to change up something even further, and let's say I went down here to this pattern, and let's say I duplicated it again. Okay, there it is right there, and then I named it change up. whatever. Again, I'm just making a quick example. And then I don't know, down here I added an extra snare or something, you know, something. Let's go ahead and focus on that scene right quick. Now again, I'm just putting that in there any old type of way, because I'm not really caring about how the beat is playing right now. I'm just showing you how it's changing up, you know, the scenes. You know, now you got 3 different scenes with 3 different patterns. You can go in here, you can select your patterns any way that you see fit, you know, so you can go ahead and you can build up, you know, complex sequences and complex patterns. And, you know, you just go from there. You can make your scenes and patterns as long as you want to. For example, I'm on this scene is called change up. Let's say if I wanted this one to be a 2-bar, you know, I just, you know, increase this a little bit. See how that moves up there? When I move this icon here, you can have it as short or as long as you want it to be. You know, if I wanted this to be however long, if I wanted to be 20 bars or whatever, it doesn't make a difference. You know, this right here is basically how you're going to set it up. So right there, we made that into a 8-bar loop. If I went here, let's say if I made it 32 bars. Then I went up here and I zoomed out on that. See how long that thing got? That's how long you're making your pattern. Okay, I come here, let's say if I made it, let's bring it back to 1 bar again. Now we're back to 1 bar. Scroll over a little bit and there's a little pattern. You know, and you can duplicate your patterns, you know, on your hardware controller. You press the duplicate button, you know, you can duplicate the lengths, you know, and it gets really more easier to understand. Like once you understand that this right here is what's going to determine how your patterns are going to get played, you know. And again, this is your looper here, so this is basically like your little song mode, you know. And then if you're on other groups, let's say if you're down here on group B, okay, and then I don't know, let's say over here you had, let's say some synthesizer sound or something in here or whatever, you know, whatever you grab, you know. And then if you had a little MIDI pattern in here or whatever, okay, again, the process repeats. You know, you come in here, you make your pattern length. If you want to make it match, you know, basically what you have up here. And then this was some type of synth or some type of VST, an AU plugin. If you're inside Pro Tools, I don't know, you might have some double AX program in there, whatever the case may be. You know, that's pretty much how you get in there. You know, and then it gets to other areas. For example, let's say if you're here on the piano roll, for example, and let's say, I don't know, for whatever reason, this was, let's say if I made this a 3-bar loop, that means up here, when you're on group A, this pattern is going to have this little blank space right there. So you're going to have to more than likely double that to match, because you see how it's going to have that little blank space right there. So you probably would have to increase this, you know, so that it matches better, you know. And then you come in here. A quick way to do it, you can hold down Alt and drag like that. That's one fast way you can duplicate your patterns like that. Or let's say down here, if I had a synth and this was, I don't know, let's say I had this like this. Again, I'm not making any sense right now as far as how the MIDI notes are looking, because I'm just doing this really quick. But let's say that was like that, you know. And again, if you want to do it from the software, you can highlight all that. You can Alt and drag that, as I'm doing here. You can build like really quick patterns. Okay. And then, you know, the process basically repeats. And then if you're over here, you know, again, 9 times out of 10, of course, you're going to be playing your MIDI keyboard, you know, whatever VST or instrument that you have, you know, and you're making your patterns that way. But again, this is just, you know, keep the tutorial brief and easy. I'm trying to keep this as simple and basic as possible without getting overly complex. So let's say if this was triggering some synthesizer and then you want to have a change up, it's basically the same thing. You know, you go over here, you know, you duplicate the pattern, and then let's say on this pattern right here, I don't know, you had another note here or something, you know, or I don't know, this might have been shorter here, or, you know, whatever the case may be. I mean, that's pretty much how that goes. So then that way, let's say if you're over here and let's name this synth pattern 2, for example. All right. So now let's say if we're over here under verse and we want to have send pattern to here, and right here where we want to have the original first pattern. Okay, so now from here to here, you see when I'm going like this, you got two different patterns for the synth. See what I'm saying? You got this pattern here, then this pattern right here is where it's going to change up. You see what I mean? So that's how you're getting that to play in order. So then that would mean up here, if you don't want to have that blank spot on group A, again, you're going to have to double the length of this to match. And again, you can do this from the hardware controller. Okay, so that it matches. So then that way, when you're playing your scene, you're not going to have that little blank space there. That's pretty much how that works in, you know, in a nutshell, man. I mean, I can't really think of an easier way to explain it. You know, you basically, you create your patterns and your scene up here. Your scenes basically, they just arrange it. You know, they sequence it. It's like, just think of the scenes as just, yeah, it's just a sequencer. You know, the scenes sequence your patterns. That's basically all it is. So I hope that makes it a lot easier for you to understand. If it doesn't, just email me and I'll make another video, and maybe we can break it down another way to make it a lot more easier to understand. But after you watch this video, I would suggest taking a look at the other video on the website where you learn how to use it from the hardware controller, because you can do it like bam, a lot faster from the hardware controller. You know, again, you're new, so I don't want to like overwhelm you, but it's a lot easier because you could just set pattern lengths and double your patterns and all that like really quick. But I think that this tutorial video is going to be a big help because I'm breaking it down from the software, which is not a bad place to start at all. You know, so I hope this video helps you out, fam. Again, it's your boy Fontaine, the VIP SOUNDLAB.com. Be sure to come by the website. We have a basic VIP membership that's a one-time fee of $9.99 with no monthly fees. We give out free monthly drum kits, free controller editor templates, free sessions, a lot of free monthly goodies each month, as well as some membership perks. Matter of fact, I might as well go ahead and show this too. For example, under your all samples tab, I think someone asked me how to load the kits up. Okay, for example, here goes some kits that I have in here, and I'm being lazy right now by not putting my other graphic images in a lot of my other kits, man. Cause I was out of the country. I was in Japan for a while, and I was gonna work on the website. We have those graphic images for the kits on the website. So just go on the website, log into the tutorial section, and click on the free sounds for members page. And we have the tutorial images in there as well as the templates for the drum kit. So if you want to change your imaging, you can do that there. But under file preferences, when you go under library, when you click on your user tab here, again, these are the drum kits that I have scanned in here right now because I've been, you know, working on other projects and other things. But basically what you're going to do, wherever you have your drum kit stored, you're going to press add here. Okay. And when you press add, that's where you're going to go into your hard drive, and wherever you have those drum kits stored, you're going to go in there and you're going to press rescan. And when you press rescan, that's going to go ahead and bring your drum kits in, and they'll show up over here. Okay. And then if you want to go in there and tag your sounds, you know, for example, if you go into edit here, you go into your properties, you know, you go in here and you tag your sounds. For example, for vendor here, I'm putting, you know, our company, the author, the comment. You have your types here. So if you want to name your drum kits, you know, by certain categories, you're creating filters to narrow it down to make it easier for you to find those sounds. So basically what happens is when you're in your hardware controller, it makes browsing for those sounds a lot easier, because when you hit the browse button, you know, you can sit there and go through your banks, your types, and your properties. Okay. And basically what happens is those properties is what shows up here. Okay. For example, it's saying, you know, here's the type. I put the VIP SOUNDLAB drum kit. Then I select the bangies drum kit. These filters come up where I can scroll through the sounds, the machine kits, whatever the case may be. So I can touch on any one of these little tags here, and it brings up those banks of sounds. So that's basically all that is. You know, if you just want to have it neat and orderly, you know, then your projects will show up here. You know, any projects that you save, you know, any effects that you create, you know, your instruments and your groups and all that good stuff. So that's where all that shows up. You know, you got your groups here, You know, down here you can open groups, you can save groups. Same here. If you save up here, you're basically saving what's called a machine project. If you save down here, this is what's basically known as a machine group. Okay, so there's a difference. So if you load a group, 9 times out of 10, when you load group sounds, it won't have the patterns up here. I know a lot of producers, they like to browse through the groups of sounds. You know, if they want to, you know, open up a kit that's a group kit, load up the sounds, and, you know, start banging out real quick and create their own scenes and patterns. You know, that's what group kits does. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it, man. That's how you get your scenes and patterns to play in a sequential order. I hope that helps you out. Again, it's your boy Fontaine, www.vipsoundlab.com. Peace.